Hello and welcome to the Discovering Spirituality podcast, Episode 2, God, Human Character. In this podcast, I will be sharing my thoughts on the writing God, Human Character, taken from the channel book The Light in Your Life is Spirit by George A. Thomson. The Ascension of Man. The evolution from instinctive savagery to enlightened being is not only tied to life experience, but also positive emotional intelligence. It is one thing to live, but if that life is lived as a primitive being, then emotional intelligence stagnates and does not grow. The link between the physical and spiritual world are through the application of intelligent thought and emotional evolution. Primitive emotions are very chaotic and raw, like an untamed horse. It is usually very reactionary and self-serving and protectionist. The character is the application of thought and action along with outcome, the response being experienced between the revealed thought of the expressor and how they receive the expression. The individual develops an identity, a picture of themselves based on the accumulated life experience and genetics. The character is also made up of characteristics and responses to external and internal stimulation. The character is an illusion, developed in the mind, very often the primitive mind. But when the intention is honest and sincere, that emotional content adds to the soul's development, which initiates change. How do you know truly that you're honest and genuine, authentic? It is very subjective. How do you know for sure? How do you know that your soul is growing? Is it how you feel and how others respond to you? How do you know that their responses are genuine? There are two gifts, free will and the soul essences. The soul essences are love, sensitivity, compassion, and understanding. Free will is to consciously choose. Free will of thought and action equals outcome. The outcome equals growth or diminishment. Free will, to be sentient, self-aware. This means to become, the creation of the identity, the awareness of the I. Thought includes instinctive primitive behavior and understanding. Most thought is driven by primitive motivation, which may appear to be intelligent, but in truth are motivated by primitive instinct. So God gave man self-awareness, knowing full well that as a being, he was already pre-programmed with a genetic history. Very high risk, a gamble if you will. Full knowledge implies that this has been done before, it's calculated. The challenge for man is to understand that there is a state beyond the primitive, that he could become something other. This other is not wealth or status or influence, so what is it? Could it be the truth of life, its value and how special it is? A life that is lived, even if you choose not to acknowledge it. You can, of course, choose to abort it. Instead of creating an identity, create a positive state of being and ask yourself, does my being attract or repel? In modern, particularly Western culture, identity is always put before substance, which has created a toxic environment for the future generations. Identity is the illusion, whereas being is the truth. When identity becomes the focus, personal responsibility takes a back seat. Something that I ponder today was to examine how early emotional intelligence began within primitive social structures. Man reached a point where death, birth, and companionship ushered in a new state of being, an evolutionary marker. Identity probably started off on a very simple level, the strongest versus the weakest, both of these attributes directly linked to survival. The weaker members of the group developed cunning to maintain their standing, while others made themselves useful by being productive. In essence, primitive understanding was always associated with survival. Food, shelter, protection, social integration. How do we start to overcome our base instincts? It starts with the parents helping to teach the child social skills, values, and with love, security, and discipline, if necessary. Security and belonging are key as well as love. Loving a child beyond the basics of feeding and shelter. The parents must also nurture, listen and guide and be responsible. To discover one's potential, one must be curious, without putting your life at risk. Social interactions help us to challenge our ideas, which will continue to change if development is balanced. Fear is a major contributor to human dysfunction. Love provides a direction, which acts as a moral compass. Intelligence also provides the individual with the capacity to reason. Love is the opposite of fear. Much of life's motivations are based on survival, but what would happen if we actually took an interest in life? Fear is always the enemy of progress. Fear traps us in the past, or in an imagined future. Fear subverts reality. It changes perceptions and actions, thoughts and opinions. Since God gave man free will, there must have been a reason for it. If man was or is to think for himself, then how does one go about doing it? At the risk of generalizing, many people embellish their identity with thoughts and opinions of others. At the risk of generalizing, many people embellish their identity with the thoughts and opinions of others, offering nothing more than a diluted sense of meaning. If we rely on the opinions of others, then how will we know the truth? Is this what makes us ignorant? To blindly borrow ideas and opinions that are not our own? Strip away all of the baseless identity and what are you left with? Are you left with a being with little or no substance? Is our free will not just about making choices? Instead, is this gift to be used to create a being? Not just the outer illusion of the individual, but the actual substance of something which has more depth and value. I still find it hard not to attribute God with characteristics. To create yourself, a mix or a harmony of man and spirit, a balance. The being not only grows, it is created. Determine the reason to create the being. Is it self-love? Investing in the creation, nurturing the creation. Who do you want to be? What characteristics do you wish to have? What is the best you can be? This is of course a choice. We all have the ability to be the best we can be. For most, the best you can be usually has something to do with wealth, popularity, power and influence. Of course, this is not to say that success has to be negative, but one must always be mindful of the cost and motivations for such success. There are a multitude of examples to be found within any given society that showcase the image of success, which are supposed to lead the individual towards happiness. But all too often when superficial goals are achieved, the feeling of success or achievement seldom lasts, which in some cases leaves the individual with feelings of dissatisfaction. So what is it that lasts? What is it that stays with us? Bonds created by friendship and relationships, feelings of love and care, a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose and fulfillment. It is not what can be experienced externally. Mostly, it is what is felt internally. This is where I believe society is failing. It is focused on the external illusions of success. Values and positive character hold little weight. Recognizable virtues go unnoticed. But these are what really matter. This is truly who you are. You might not make a huge impact on the world, but by cultivating integrity, virtues and positive value, you can create a new state of being. One that has the power and influence to change all of humanity. Is that not worth investing in? Is this not a worthy purpose for your life? Is this the only purpose you need? And those are my thoughts on the writing God Human Character. If you're interested in reading the writing from the book The Light in Your Life is Spirit, you can download it from the link below in the description. If you like the topic discussed in this video, please feel free to subscribe and hit the like button. Also, by hitting the notification button, you can stay up to date when a new podcast is uploaded. Thank you for listening.